Alhamdulillah, we are very, very happy and fortunate to have our guests from Care, Florida. We have Brother Ahmed, mashallah, who is a local of Fort Myers. We have Brother Bob, mashallah, also an attorney who is joining us on Zoom from where is Brother Bob?
From Sarasota.
Okay, Sarasota, mashallah. It's not too far, a little down the road. Okay. And we have, mashallah, our brother Wilfredo, all the way from Fort Lauderdale. I know Brother Wilfredo for I don't know how many years, but it's been a very, very long time. And mashallah, we have benefited greatly from Care in South Florida, in Fort Lauderdale area. And there's so many stories, I can mention. If I have some time at the end, inshallah, we'll go into a little bit of that. So alhamdulillah, look, we need each and every single organization in the Muslim community that is doing some service of the deen. We need their services and we appreciate their services. So we have some organizations that are doing relief work. We have some organizations that are doing, shelter for women or for those who are less fortunate, who don't have a place to stay at home. In the same way, Care Florida has its own, way of serving the Muslim community and the Muslim Ummah here in the entire United States. And so we really appreciate that, and we are very happy and honored that they have come here today and given us some of their valuable time, inshallah. So I will hand it over to Brother Ahmed, and then at the end, if there is some time, then I will mention a few words, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Ahmed Khan. I'm an attorney here in the state of Florida. I am joined by Bob Sichta, who's also an attorney who specializes in immigration law. He is our lead immigration attorney here for Care Florida. Bob, why don't you introduce yourself to the community and we can begin.
Good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to be with you, particularly with you. You are the people I am so appreciative of, and we are also appreciative of at Care Florida because of the way you helped Afghan refugees in 2021. You people were awesome. Because of you, we had a 100% acceptance rate on our asylum applications. Let me tell you how rare that is. Never, but you did. 100%. It was awesome. And all of those people have not only been granted asylum, they either currently have or are in the process of getting green cards. That will lead to more and more in their lives as they incorporate themselves into the society that is this country. And it is because of you. Thank you for all your help. And I shouldn't call out individuals, but I will in this instance. I don't know if he's a member of this particular congregation, but Dr. Baki was essential in all this as well. And if you've seen the Jibla Torah Kai hanging around there, give him a big hug and thank you.
Great. They actually shared today. So Brother Baki is sitting right in front of me, and I just saw Najibullah a short time ago. I think he's here as well. I don't see him right now, but they are here. So that's great news. What we're here today is for a very important reason, is because with the current political environment and the current regime that's in Washington today, we have noticed a lot more problems for everybody traveling, but for brown people especially, be they Muslims, Arabs, Hispanic. This is for all of you. This is going to help you understand what your rights are while traveling, what your rights are at the airport, what your rights are upon re-entry to the United States. And a little bit of sort of the background is the difference between the different immigration statuses that we have. The top status being citizenship, the second status being permanent residency or green card holders, and then basically everything after that. You can be on the path to a green card by being an asylee, like Bob spoke about before, which we've helped Afghans receive, as well as being here under temporary protected status, being here under a non-immigrant visa, or other types of things, student visa or anything like that. We will sort of address the differences between citizens and everybody else. Bob?
Thank you, Ahmed. One other part of to add on to what he said, which was excellent. There is another status, and that is you may have none of those and be able to get status. You may not be aware of that, and yet if you contact us, we may be able to determine some status that is available to you, or we may be able to refer you to someone who can help you get a particular status. Some people just don't know. I don't think it's in this particular congregation, but another congregation down in the Fort Myers area where they came to us with a lady about 2 or 3 years ago who had no idea. All she knew was she was here. She had been brought over here by relatives. We ended up getting her asylum. I won't tell you more about that, but uh, it just was something we were able to do because they came to us, told us their situation. We were able to review it in an open way. And what that should tell all of you is nobody here, none of you, are illegal. There is not an illegal person in this country. You can be undocumented, you can lack status. That does not make you illegal. That is something for a court to determine. And until a court decides that, you are here like everybody else. And if you are physically in this country, you have the same rights as everybody else. We're going to go beyond that when we talk about travel because those things change a little bit. I'll turn that back over to Ahmed to get going in that direction.
Okay, we are going to have, basically, we're going to split this, this presentation into basically two parts. The first part is Bob and I are going to sort of explain to you, what the rights are, at the border, and what to do when you're traveling and if you should be traveling. The second part, we're going to basically open it up to questions, from the audience here and online as well. You'll see right now, basically what we're going to be talking about. Care Florida is going to be preparing this document into a 4x6 card to be printed out, and I will get that soon enough and hand it out to the community here. But you will also be able to see it at the careflorida.org website, and that should answer a lot of questions. Now, what we want to do is basically start with the first part. And we wanted to let you know sort of what you do at the airport when you're returning from being foreign. But even before we start that, Bob and I both agree that right now, if you are not a U.S. citizen, we highly recommend you do not travel outside the United States. That is simply for your safety because you can be detained for long periods of time. Or if you're not a U.S. citizen, you can be held and deported. We've seen it happen, unfortunately, with that person from Maryland who's now in El Salvador. So we don't want to see anybody and anyone sent to their own country where they're not safe, or to a third country which they have no connections. So basically, we want to start off with, if you are a U.S. Citizen or a permanent resident, which means a green card holder, when you come to the airport, when you go through security and you pass through customs, you do not have to answer questions about your religious beliefs and practices or your political opinions. You do not have to provide the passwords for any electronics. You don't have to unlock your electronics, but by not doing so, the U.S. government has the right to confiscate that piece of equipment. They will hold it for a certain amount of time. I've yet to hear where they have not returned it, either in days or in weeks. But what we do recommend that you all do is don't take a smartphone with you when you travel now. Take a dumb phone, take a burner phone with you, and just keep the most basic things, because if they open it up, they have connections, they have everything in your social media, and everything like that, and we don't want them to have it. And this now, what I'm going to, Rob, we'll take questions towards the end, after we get through this, and then we'll take those. This part only applies to U.S. citizens. That's why we're making a distinction. As a U.S. citizen, you cannot be denied entry into the United States for declining to answer questions. They cannot do it. That is not the case for anybody else. And Bob, I'll let you add anything more to this part.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Ahmed. It's very important to really understand what Ahmed this last thing he said. If you're a citizen, they can't deny you a return to this country. Did you know you can come back to the U.S. without a passport, and they have to let you in if you have some proof that you're a citizen? They got to do it. They can't keep you out, right? But they can play games at the border. And if you have a green card, The game at the border right now, the number one game, is to try and get you to surrender your green card or somehow give it up, give it away. This is one of the reasons, it's not the only one, why we are advising people who have a green card right now and for the foreseeable future, don't leave the United States. Keep a low profile in that regard until you get your citizenship, because you are the low-hanging fruit. Does everybody know what I mean when I say low-hanging fruit? I'm sure you do, right? And you are the easily found and pickable fruit. The government has all your data if you have a green card. They know where you live. They know how old you are. They know what you look like. They got your fingerprints. They got your biometrics. They got you, right? And you better be there, because if you're not there at that address, you moved and didn't tell them, you can lose your green card for that. So they know where you are, and they're looking for different things. Ahmed touched on something a moment ago that's very important about phones and traveling. I'm going to cover that in another way, just quickly. They're going to look at your phone and see what they can find in the way of social media. This is just simply what they're doing. You may have noticed that right now, as an example, our government has stopped processing all student visas. Everybody who is a student from another country, which is a lot of people, everybody who's applied for one is waiting. And they're going to continue to wait for a while for one primary reason that the government's even been foolish enough, I think, frankly, to announce, and that is they're checking everybody's social media. Now, why are they doing that? They're looking to see if there's anything in there they can use to keep you out. Anything that looks like you disagree with the current administration, anything like that. I never thought I'd have to say these things in my own country, but that's what's going on right now. This is part of the low profile you have to keep as a green card holder, because you are the low-hanging fruit. If you're a citizen, you don't have that problem. You can say whatever you want. It's just too bad if they don't like it. But if you're a green card holder, or you've got a relative who's a green card holder, like a spouse or a child or something like that, and they dig into that, then what you say could fall into their lap somehow and jeopardize their status. So you want to be aware, if you know somebody, if you are related somehow to someone who has a green card, that the things you do as a citizen can jeopardize them. Now, let's take that to the border. You're coming into the United States. Notice how Ahmed started with that, not leaving the U.S., because they'll punch you out and let you leave this country whenever you want. Green card or citizen, that's fine. It's the getting back in part that gets strange these days. If you come in as a citizen, they have to let you in. They can delay you. They can jerk you around a little bit. They can ask you questions that even feel a little embarrassing. You don't have to answer them at all. You're a citizen. They can take your phone. They can look at it. They can't open it without a warrant, but they can try and get that. They're not going to. They may keep it for a while and try and get into it. They may ask you for a code. They may check your phone by waving it in front of your face, because a lot of people have facial recognition on their phone these days. And if they do that, they'll open their phone and they'll look into it. And they'll look, even as a U.S. citizen, at your social media, see what you're doing, what you're all about. And they may even, in those contexts, and I was just reading about this this weekend, in fact, they may, in the context of looking at what's on your phone, be looking to see who you are related to, who's here, who's not a citizen, meaning a green card holder, somebody here on a travel visa, somebody here on a student visa, something like that. And with our electronic systems and the way we're able to research things these days, that's not a hard thing for them to do anymore. So you have to be aware of all those things. This goes right back to the very important thing Ahmed said about, if you travel now coming back into the US, come back with a cold phone. If you've got another phone that's got a lot of stuff on it, mail it back, send it back by Federal Express, get it back here some other way if you can't live without that phone. Do not carry that phone with you. Now, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. I think Ahmed was going to cover this anyway. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, and that is on the traveling part, because we said we're talking about returning to the U.S. The idea is, how do you get back in, right? Okay, and particularly if you're not a citizen. We tell everybody that when you are coming back, make sure you have at least one contact here on the ground in the United States. You can also have one of us available, a care lawyer, or if not us, we can refer you to somebody else depending on the circumstance you might be in, or geographically where you are, whatever. But you can arrange in advance so that you have a contact here and an attorney here who will talk to you and help you. When that plane lands, before you get out of your seat, which apparently is illegal now in Turkey in some ways, that's a whole nother story. Before you get out of your seat, you will call or text that contact on the ground here. You will call or text that lawyer on the ground here, and you will say, I have just landed. My flight number is such and such. I'm at such and such airport, right? Then we're going to watch to see whether you call us again in another 2 or 3 hours, because it's taking 2 or 3, even 4 hours for people now to get through customs because of the way they're talking with them, the way they're screening them, doing those things to process them as they come back in, even U.S. citizens. And then if we get that call 2 or 3 hours later that you're clear, we all breathe a big sigh of relief. But if we don't, then we start coming in to try and figure out why you're still there, why you haven't been released. And that's where the next step comes in. These cards that Ahmed's talking about that you're going to get are terribly important because they're going to tell you what to do. It takes courage to do what these cards tell you what to do, because you're going to be under a lot of pressure when you cross that border. You're going to want to be friendly. You're going to want to talk to them when they ask you questions. And some of the questions are going to seem so easy and conversational, you're going to answer them anyway. Hey, how was your trip? Oh, it was great. Where'd you go? Well, you can tell them that, right? But they're listening for certain places, because right now, I'll give you a list. Right now, they don't like India, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Jordan. How's that? Okay, there's more to that list. Lebanon, Gaza, absolutely, if you can even figure out a way to get here from there. Libya, Egypt, Algeria, and sometimes Turkey. How about that for a fun list? Do you know anybody from there? So we do at CARE, absolutely. They're listening for that. And then it's, why were you there? Okay. Again, if you're a U.S. citizen, tell them anything you want. I hope it was legal, and you don't tell them anything illegal that you were doing. I don't think it would. I don't think it would do anything illegal. But if you're a green card holder, you have to be careful how you answer that question, because you only have to answer certain things. Right now, we're talking about Hajj, right? People want to go to the Hajj. This is wonderful. Sometimes it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it's hard to tell people with green cards, don't go. Why? Because when you come back from the Hajj, they're going to ask where you were. You're not only going to name the country, they're going to ask why you were there. And you're going to say, well, I went to the Hajj. Boom, are you in trouble? That's going to be fun as a green card holder. Then they're going to put something in front of you called an I-470. An I-470 is a document they will try to get you to sign that gives up, surrenders your green card. Okay? We keep saying legal permanent resident. When you hear the terms legal permanent resident or LPR, those are fancy expressions and terms and abbreviations for green card. If you're a green card holder, they're trying to give you it up, not because you're a bad person, not because you've done anything wrong. They're looking for low-hanging fruit right now. You're an easy scalp to get. They got you right there. Now they don't have to go find somebody by putting up a bunch of flak jackets that say different words on them and showing up somebody's doorstep in the middle of the night. Somebody who would walk in anyway and not give them any trouble, but that's the show they put on. So you've got to keep that in mind. You are easy pickings. You're right there at the airport. They can take you right then and there. You can't get in those questions, but you've got the card. You've got the card, and you've made a contact with somebody on the ground. And that person, if you haven't, is contacting us or even me. I talk people through every weekend, all the time. I get calls. Then you can call us. Then once that person doesn't clear, like I said, we get involved to try and find out what's the holdup. Why is so-and-so being delayed? And we let them know you are an important person. We let them know you're not just somebody that they can railroad and ramrod around and do those things to. So we get involved that way. But backing up into that, you have to make a move yourself. And the move is, you've got your card. You've made your call or your text to your friends on ground. They've got you there, and they're asking you questions at the border. And they're taking away your phone. And they're saying things like, what was the purpose of your trip? And you're saying business and pleasure, or pleasure, whatever. You don't have to tell them more than that. You don't have to tell them it was the Hajj. You don't have to tell them, well, what's your faith? You don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer it. So when these things start getting a little too specific beyond just business or pleasure, that's when you pick up the card in one hand, and your phone, if they haven't taken it away from you, the other, hopefully by this time they haven't, and you're saying, you don't mind if I call my lawyer, do you? All right. And if that doesn't work because they've already taken away your phone, or they're giving you a rough time about that, you will get to tell them, I've already notified my lawyer. That you don't have to say why, because they may even ask you why. You don't have to answer that. Well, the answer is pretty obvious. Look, because I expect you to hassle me, because you are hassling people, because you're profiling me, not because I've done anything wrong, but because of where I'm coming from and my ethnicity and my religion. So you don't have to say or answer any of those things. You can simply say, I've already notified my counsel on the ground. They're expecting to hear from me. You can say those things too. Those things work. I've had that experience over the last couple of weeks where somebody actually did that. I hadn't even been advising part of that in the past. I was just telling them, say to them, pulling up the card, you don't mind if I call my lawyer, do you, while you're calling your lawyer? You don't wait for them to give you permission. They don't need it. But instead, I've had people saying, where there's been something going on with the phone, you're aware, aren't you, that I want you to be aware, I've already contacted my lawyer and I'm waiting. They're waiting to hear from you when they clear customs. Everybody's gotten through. Everybody. Be aware. You can be strong in this too, but you do not have to answer questions, and you will not, if you're right. If you don't, you've got to avoid the pressure. It's hard. You will not answer questions of religion. You will not answer anything beyond business or pleasure. You will not answer anything beyond the country you're coming from, which they know anyway, because they look at your passport. Your passport shows where you came from. They know the answer to that. None of this is a secret. These are the things I want you to keep in mind right now. Again, because we're here, because you've got a contact on the ground, because you've got one of us, or we have referred you to someone in another locale who is an attorney, immigration attorney, not just a regular attorney, who can help you. Quick parenthetical on that. Other attorneys may be good at this, but they really don't know it the way immigration lawyers do. There's a big difference in that kind of practice of law. And that takes us into all kinds of other areas, like just handling a traffic ticket in this country right now, and an immigration lawyer not being aware of what you're going through. Because there are actually immigration implications to that nowadays that I never thought I'd have to tell you about, but I'm having to do that these days. So again, back to have the information available, know what you can and can't answer, be bold and honest and willing to say, you don't mind if I call my lawyer, do you? Or my lawyer's already been alerted and waiting for me to clear customs. Thank you. I went a little long there, but I want to really drill that in. It's terribly important right now.
I'm going to be a little bit more specific than Bob when it comes to what they're going to try to do at the actual border when you're in front of a customs agent and immigration ICE. So you have to know these things. People do not have attorney rights at the border, right? So if they say you can't have an attorney, you can't have an attorney. They're right there, them saying it. Even as a US citizen, your constitutional rights are weaker at border entry points. The agents there have the right to stop, detain, and search every single person, regardless of their citizenship status. And they can, if they need to, they can do supplemental screening of you. If you don't cooperate as a non-citizen, let me put it that way, non-citizen, you run the risk of being denied entry. And if you're, it's just the way it is. When you first come to them and they're starting to ask, they brought you aside and they're going through the whole, they're viewing your passport and everything. What do you have to show them? U.S. Citizens and green card holders only. Your ID, which is usually your passport, because that's the easiest. You have that on hand already. Where you're traveling from, and answers to basic non-discriminatory questions. So if they go into, are you Muslim? Are you Hindu? Are you Sikh? You don't have to go into that. And if you do identify yourself as Muslim, are you Sunni or Shia? You don't have to answer that question. Those are not relevant to providing security. Now, what do you say when you start answering these questions? Again, I'm going to be very specific. As US citizens only, you can say, I've identified myself. I feel targeted. I want a supervisor. And if one is not present, give me their name. And number 4, like Bob already spoke about, I'll be calling my lawyer. Bob also talked about it a little bit earlier. You've already made plans before traveling that you have a designated person who has all your trip information and all your details and is tracking your arrival. You'll have already contacted an immigration attorney, like Bob just said, before coming in, because they have the most expertise and they know what to do with these sort of questions. Inform your designated person exactly when you land, like Bob said, and before getting off the airplane. And the designated person should inform the attorney for any delay over 4 hours. Anything under 4 hours, you're okay. That's become typical. Over 4 hours, that's concerning. That means you've usually gone into supplemental screening, and you need to know that. We also recommend, if you can, if you're going to take a phone that is basically a smartphone, then have electronic photos of your passport and any other important documents, okay? And do not sign any documents without review by an attorney. No matter how much they pressure you, do not do it. It's really that simple. Do not sign a document without review by an attorney. Since your attorney is not there, what does that imply? Don't sign anything because your attorney hasn't reviewed it. They're going to try to trick you. They're going to try to intimidate you. You don't have to do it. So don't. Bob, I'm basically open to answering any questions.
I'm going to answer 3 questions. I'm going to answer 3 questions quickly if I can, because I see them posted here and they're good questions.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. First one is, if you have relatives as green card holders, do your social media views affect them? The answer is yes, they do. Yes, they do. So you want to be careful about that. Only to make sure that that information really isn't in your social media when you're returning to this country. Now I'm going to so that they can't identify who those people are. I wipe that from my phone if I could. They're not going to be that ravenous if it's wiped from your phone to go try and take your phone and do some special super search on it, unless you're somebody who's already wanted for some other criminal enterprise that we don't know about, like maybe you did rob the bank somewhere in Monte Carlo. I don't know. But behind that, we have the issue of smartphones for U.S. citizens. All right, this is U.S. citizen versus green card holder. All right, U.S. citizen smartphone. You can, I realize you got a lot of stuff on that phone and you need it for different things like pet sitters and all that. That's valid stuff. You can put that phone in your luggage, but now you have to hope that they don't pull it out of your luggage when they scan your luggage when you come in. Likelihood is small, but you're running a risk. But you can try that along with putting that smartphone in your luggage. Remember, you're a U.S. citizen, okay? Which takes me to the third question here about separating your children from you, and everybody's a citizen, and ICE questioning all of them. They're U.S. citizens. They can't do anything to them. Now, if one of those kids says, yeah, mom and dad have a bunch of heroin that they've got wrapped around their waist, and they're trying to sneak it through customs, you're in trouble, okay? But I don't think you're going to try to do that. I've had clients who've done that in the past. Don't do that. That is illegal, right? We will arrest you. I won't have a problem with them arresting you for that either, okay? So please understand that. But they're U.S. citizens. And again, this goes back to the beginning of what Ahmed said. We're telling green card holders right now, don't try it. Don't try it. Let me take this a step further in another way about green card holders, okay? You are a green card holder coming back to the U.S., showing your green card at the border. And they say, hey, you never paid this traffic ticket. Or for that matter, hey, you have this reckless driving conviction somewhere in New York or in Chicago or whatever, right? Because they'll have that. They can try actually to use that to deport you. Do you understand that? They can. That is a deportable offense, we've never really used it before, but they're using it now. If you have some other criminal issue, because you don't really think of traffic incidents like tickets and things like that as criminal issues, technically they're criminal because anything where there's a possibility of doing any kind of time in jail requires a court to give you a lawyer. And even if you waive all that and they decide part of the waiver is that nobody's going to impose a jail sentence on, that they're only going to fine you, you have been in a criminal proceeding if that happens. And having been in a criminal proceeding can be enough under immigration law to do something to you. I'm gonna take that and jump another level on that, and it's this. For non-citizens, you don't have to be convicted of a criminal charge. You only have to be charged. They can drop the charge. You can beat the charge with a not guilty. It doesn't matter. Immigration doesn't look at it that way. It's an administrative process, not a criminal process. And because it's administrative, their position is you were charged. Okay? But I wasn't convicted. It was no, you were charged. Right now, if you're crossing borders, US borders from other countries, with that in your background, you're taking a risk you didn't know you had, because you didn't have this risk six months ago. You do now. Please understand what's going on right now. This is not a safe situation for you in terms of travel.
And now, basically, we've gone through the questions online. Is there anyone present? I know, Rabia, I saw. Have we answered your question?
Should we take off of social media? If we don't put our phone in our luggage, is it smart to offload social media?
Bob, Sister Rabia was asking, if you do take a smartphone, would it be advisable to remove all the social media apps?
Yes.
And everything?
Yep. Get it out of there. Get it out of there, or bury it in your luggage, and come in with a dead phone in your hands in terms of what you're walking through the terminal with, and then get it out of your luggage later. One of those two things. There's another question that's popped in here, and that's about what about H-1B and H-4 people traveling back? Yeah, you might not get in. Don't go. There's no right to entry here anymore. Okay? You might not get in. When they're taking away TPS for Afghans, right? This is serious stuff. Those in this particular mosque understand this probably better than most, because you have a lot of people who've been involved in the Afghan process. Either they are Afghans themselves who got asylum through us or somebody else, or you know somebody in there who's been through it. That's all changed. And Ahmed will remember when we started processing Afghan asylum applications in 2021 and 2022, I said then, and I'm not patting myself on the back with it, I'm not proud of this, but I said, these are the easiest we're going to do right now, but in 2 years, they're going to forget all about this. In 2 years, everything's going to turn. And with the change in presidency, it really turned. We're kind of pretending like that never happened. We don't even have diplomatic relations with Afghanistan. We're threatening sending people back there. Please understand that.
Rabia, you want to follow up?
Facial recognition, and they ask for our passcode. Do we have to?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Say no.
You just say, no, we're not providing it. The question,
Right.
if ICE or CBP asks you to give thumbprint or fingerprint access to your phone, or facial recognition access
Nope.
to your, turn those off before getting on the plane.
Your answer is you got a warrant?
Yes, I was about to get there. Without a warrant signed by a judge, this is very important. It has to be signed by a sitting judge. You do not have to open up your electronics for search.
No.
It's-
Can I cap on that just for a second? I'm sorry, but it's signed by a judge. He is so important. It is so essential what he just said, because a lot of CBP people are getting warrants signed by immigration judges. That's not valid. Immigration judges don't have the authority to sign a warrant. They may sign one anyway, because they'll do that. They'll abuse their authority, but it has no effect. Only a federal district judge can sign a warrant with respect to your immigration rights. Do you understand that? Only they can issue a search warrant for your phone, not an immigration judge. So you got to see the name of a federal magistrate or a federal judge on that warrant. If you don't, it's not a good warrant.
My recommendation, and Bob will agree with it, read the warrant and what their warrant is asking for. At the bottom of where the signatory area is, it should be signed by a federal judge or a federal magistrate, and they have to give it in clear writing, their name and what they are. It has
And
to
the purpose of the search.
Well,
purpose-
the purpose of
yeah.
this, but at the very bottom. it
These
has
are
to-
rules. This is not technicality stuff, folks. You hear about technicalities in the law. No, this is the law. They got to have a valid reason. They got to get it signed by a judge, and the warrant has to be particular. They can't do a fishing expedition on your phone. That's why they don't have a warrant, because they're not going to they can't get one like that usually, unless you're something like Al Capone re-entering the U.S., right? So, or was it Meyer Lansky? I think Meyer Lansky was the guy. It's a terrible story. He's coming back from Cuba, and he was the head of a Jewish mafia out of Boston and New York. So they went after him. They should have. Okay.
All right, anybody else have any questions? Go ahead.
Are all of the ports of entry back into the US equal in what they can and cannot do, like Louisiana as compared to Boston, as compared to New York City?
You have a lot of discretion. Everyone, the question is, on different points of entry, they seem to have different ways of doing things. Like,
Yeah.
David was
Yeah.
mentioning at Louisiana versus Boston versus New York versus
Yeah.
anywhere else. They have a lot of leeway to do stuff, but it all falls under federal immigration law, and Bob will go a little
Yeah.
bit more.
Yeah, well, not just that, and we're not just at that point, you're not just talking airports, okay? And they all will be different at different airports. The only thing you have to really focus on is the fact that that single immigration officer standing in front of you is almost God, okay? They have all kinds of discretion with what's going to happen to you, that individual person. And the other officers will back them up even when they're wrong, okay? Police do that, and they do that. But you may not be coming from these perspectives, you may not be coming in through an airport. You might be coming in on a ship. You might be coming in land border along the Mexican border. You may be coming off the water on a ship. You may be coming through Canada. And if you come through Canada, you're probably driving in across the Peace Bridge. A lot of people do that in taxis, for Pete's sakes. And they meet you at the border, and the guy looks in your car and asks if you have anything to declare, right? And that's usually a pretty simple process. So usually, we don't really hear any issues about people clearing the border in Canada because there really aren't any right now. Maybe they'll get into that later. We're hearing about it elsewhere. But there's a paranoia in this government right now about anybody who isn't a Native American. And I mean every part of that slur.
You got a question?
Yeah, so I know the answer, but I'll just ask it for the benefit. So what if someone, they need a lawyer, but they're hesitant due to the fees?
Huh.
They're gonna come to, yeah. Go ahead.
Imam was asking about people needing a lawyer prior to travel or during travel. Let me give it very simple. CARE is here for the Muslim community. If you have a question, you can
Yeah.
call CARE.
Awesome.
Or you'll see it here right now. Note it down on the screen. Note it down. You can call CARE. You can go to the website careflorida.org and put in a request. We can go into very minute detail with you if you do what we call an intake. You call up Care Florida, you state who you are, what help you need. We review your file, an attorney reviews your file, and then we call you back. If you're traveling here, but this is very important. That is usually a process that happens between 48 to 72 hours. But if you are caught by law enforcement anywhere, that goes immediately to a lawyer. There is no waiting period. You get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Just know that. And our services are free. We do not charge a dime for what we do. So if you need our help, call us. We will tell you if we can help you. And if we cannot help you, as Bob said, we will get you to someone who can. And there's people out there that are much better at this than we are. And we freely admit it. It's just that we are a small organization. They are large. You might have to pay for it. But at least we can get you there and you're in good hands. We're sort of reaching the end of our time. Oh, sorry, Brother Baki. Brother Baki's asking a question.
Yeah.
It's on international trip, people come at after the 8 to 5 time, let's say they come at midnight. And then if they all care, care doesn't have any attendant to respond. How is that situation? So
We have personal care cell phones, and Bob usually gives out his own cell phone. Send us a text message, no matter what happens. I have my cards are out on the side. Oh, okay, and Brother Wilfredo is passing out my cards. And I have more if you don't have it right now, but it's also on the screen if you want to just make a note of that.
And by the way, as an ad, we are free, but we're free because of the generosity everybody shows to care, to support care. Because you support care, this is one of the benefits available to you.
I have one more question.
Oh, yes, one more.
My coworker came to this country legally, but right this moment he does not have any status, and he does not have a valid Florida ID.
Well, but here's the thing, but this purpose of this one, this is just to give general information. Your
That's an
question,
intake. That's an intake. You can call us for an intake on that.
right? You have to, I'll give you my card. You call us, we'll do the intake, like Bob just said, but we can't really get into specifics of specific situations.
Question is, I didn't even ask you a question yet. All I was just wondering, is he okay to fly to New York?
I can't answer that.
We don't know.
Don't know. We need
What
more information. That's why we have to do the intake.
Here's a fascinating thing about immigration, and it's a very solid rule, even though it'll sound general. Every case is different. Husband and wife, brothers, sisters who are twins, doesn't matter. Every case is different. There are technical differences in each one. So we do an intake, we evaluate. If we can't help you, we try to get you to somebody who can. And one of the big advantages if we refer you is that we will refer you to qualified people. We're members of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, at least I am, and we'll get you to people who are part of that. These are credentialed immigration lawyers, okay? Regular lawyers don't know the stuff we know. And sometimes when people go to traffic court, they'll make pleas on different things and stuff like that and not even know they jeopardized their immigration status because their lawyer didn't know. But the people who have problems, who tell their lawyer, I'm from such and such country and I'm a green card holder or whatever, those people, their lawyers are smart when they call us and say, hey, I got a client. Do they need to do anything special here to avoid any trouble? We cover all that for you.
Yep.
Very quick, just a quick follow-up on social media. What do you mean exactly? Is this whatever you look at it, was this you posted something, was just looking at news from international news?
If you have Twitter, if you have Facebook, if you have Pinterest, if you have Instagram, those are all social media. Erase those, every single one of those. Erase it from your phone before going out of the country.
Even if it's Truth Social, get rid of them.
Anything that any one of the social media platforms, any one of them, don't have them on your phone. It's really that simple. If you're going to take a smartphone, don't do it. The reason we say that is it's not only yourself that they're trying to get information from. If they're in your here's another thing about your cell phones. Even if you bring a dumb phone, carry only those numbers that you absolutely must have in that phone. Okay, so your closest relatives, your lawyer, your neighbor, like one neighbor or something like that. Keep all of your contacts to an absolute minimum. What the government does, you're the center of the wheel and all the spokes go out, right? What they're going to do is they have very sophisticated software and they're going to use that to get all the information, those names of those people, how they know you and everything like that. You don't want the government to know that. Don't open your phone. And if you absolutely do, make sure it's a dumb phone with as few contacts as possible.
you have if you carry a dumb phone, you have to have a Google account. Google has all the information.
On your,
So keep it simple. So keep it simple. The own, if they still need a warrant to get the Google information from Google. If you have a phone, a dumb phone that only has 5 contacts in it, that's all they can see without a warrant.
Yeah.
If they want all your Google contacts, they have got to get a service, a valid warrant to Google to get those other contacts, and they have to have a valid warrant.
in the absence of Google, they can't get them.
Have it, if you're, all your contacts, if they're local to your phone. And you open your phone, they have access to those. That's why I'm saying on a dumb phone, keep as few contacts as possible.
And understand this very important
Pictures,
thing.
everything.
You understand this very important aspect of your phone. You don't have to open that phone. You don't have to show it without a warrant, but they can take your phone without a warrant. Okay. They can take it. That's another reason why I worry about you having your regular smartphone with you, because you're worried about all the stuff you got on it. Well, you may kiss it goodbye for a couple of weeks when they take it. They never get it open. They never get a warrant. They never do that, but you're without that good phone. Take a dumb phone if you can. Throw the other one in the luggage, or when you leave the airport where you're leaving, say you're leaving, I don't know, Paris and flying over here, put it in Federal Express and send it home.
Okay, everybody. Thank you very much, Bob, for joining us. And thank you all for your participation.
Thank you, everybody.